What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Fatboy FadeAway Sports Podcast. Sunday morning here. Daylight savings. We were sprung ahead here. I know that's a little brutal on you. I got you. I got your vulgar text message this morning. No, just kidding. I did wake up myself,
Oh,
kind of a little groggy. Hour of sleep we miss out on. How you feeling today? Sunday morning. How we doing, Big A?
my one day to sleep in, and I wake up early anyway to do this great podcast with you. And daylight savings is going to be a rough one, Tyler, today.
It's always a weird. It's always a weird one on people. I like how they complain about it, but I do like how it does get lighter at night here. So I do like that, and I do like that it's a little bit darker in the morning. Like so, especially as we move into summer, especially here in Cloverdale, it can get to like 103 degrees in the summer. I don't mind the morning being a little bit lighter. So that's my thing here. Well, we got a lot to talk about. I was thinking about this the other day. We got a year coming up on COVID. That was coming up. That's crazy to think about, right? Almost a year up on our podcast here. Things in California here are starting to kind of move a little bit in the positive direction. We're going into the red tier now, which means more restaurants are open, schools are able to open a little bit more normalcy. Wouldn't you say? You kind of getting that vibe a little bit?
Yeah, it seems like things are coming around, sort of getting back to normal. I don't think things will ever be back to
Baron Davis had this
how they were before COVID, but
yeah. Sorry, you cut out there for a
What were you
second. I wasn't sure. Baron Davis, I saw this great tweet. He goes, "Is COVID over now?" Like it's a statement. It's not the case, but sometimes doesn't just feel like, as a nation, right, we're kind of a little spent on it. But I think that's the vibe I'm getting on it a little bit here. So it is cool.
It's over in Texas.
It's over in Texas. It's been over in Florida. Brian, who came on last week, told me he bought a plane ticket for his birthday to go to Miami. So Brian, going to Miami in 2 months for his birthday. Miami, look out.
Look out, Miami. Yeah.
Okay, we've talked about, I wonder, can Brian even tan though? I mean, that's going to be the big thing with him. Can he tan?
I've never seen those legs any lighter than the palest skin you've ever seen.
That's hilarious. We'll definitely have to get up. We'll have to call in on a Sunday when he's in Miami. He's going to be there 6 nights. Incredible. Hey, so on this podcast, we want to get into NBA. That's what we're going to focus on, NBA trade deadline. 7 questions, the bonanza, right? We usually do this every once in a while. We've got 2 months left in the playoffs start. Warriors are kind of in the mix. The Kings are on the verge of trading people. There's other players that have, teams are sitting out that we'll get into that they're looking to trade. So I know it should be an entertaining second half of the season. I was looking at the standings. It was kind of surprising to see the Jazz there at the top, right? Lakers at 3, Clippers at 4. They're not far off, but that was kind of surprising. Sixers at the top seed. The Nets now loading up. So we got a lot to get into right now. I don't know. Let's do it, right?
Let's do it.
First question of the bonanza here, Tyler McGurk, is what team needs a trade the most? It could be a good team, bad team. I'll let you start it out.
I think the 76ers need to pick up a shooter. Just one more shooter, or even a good player. Lowry's made available with Bill Simmons for saying he might be. I think that'd be the perfect fit. You have a point guard that can shoot and handle and sort of give Ben Simmons a little more easier to play him in the big minutes because you can't shoot. I think Lowry would really help him.
Did you hear that announcer rip on Simmons? Did you hear about that this week?
No.
Announcer. Yeah, he said something like he thinks he's like one of the most overrated players in the league. And I was like,
He's the best defensive player in the league.
I know you can't say that about even if he stinks at anything else. I mean, if he's like up for defensive player of the year, you can't say he's overrated in other ways.
Yeah, exactly. He's a terrible shooter. He's good at everything else.
All right, so you got the Sixers, a team that you think needs to trade the most, but they're a 1 seed, so I'm kind of surprised you think that. But is that more because the Nets have just built up their team, so you think like they need a team to get on? And Embiid obviously out 2 weeks as well. Did you saw that at the MRI? He landed on his hyper extended it, so he's out 2 weeks. All right, so the Sixers, a little surprise for me. I got the Nuggets as a team I think needs to trade the most. They're sitting at that 5 seed. They made the conference finals last year. They got a great player in Jokic. I mean, I've been watching the Nuggets have probably been the team I've watched the most the last couple of weeks, along with the Blazers and of course the Warriors and the Grizzlies a little bit too. They seem like Jokic is he's a money player now. The array of shots he has, the hook shots he has, and the crunch time shots he's making, along with Murray. But we know Murray's last year bubble performance was kind of a little, I don't know, what would you say, out of the ordinary? Is that kind of, I think that's a nice way of saying it, right?
I don't think you can expect them to do that again.
I would completely agree with that. The thing so I think they need to trade the most. They lost Grant last year. I heard also Lowry is a possible fit for them. That would be an interesting fit.
That would be a good fit. He'd be another.
Like kind of
fit on any winning team, really. Yeah.
But that would be somebody I think of too with them. Something real quick with the Nuggets too. Why I think they need to trade the most is I think, and also I was thinking about this with the fans. Their record at home this year is 9-7, and on the road it's 13-8. That's surprising. Usually they're known for having one of the best home, court advantages.
With the altitude.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird. You think they have a good team too, and you just kind of wondered, is the fans, is that making a difference, or is it just they're not playing well at home? So it's just kind of funny to think about that because they usually always have a very good home record. So I think they're trying to make even more of a run if they can get a trade in here.
Before we leave the Nuggets,
that
GM does a great job of drafting players. Like he's drafted Barton, he drafted who's Porter,
Bobo,
and then he drafted like Will Barton, or I think he drafted Barton.
How do you know how long they've been the GM for?
See, I don't even know who the GM of Denver is, but whoever's been drafting it, they get Jamari Grant. They draft, or maybe they didn't draft him, but they got him somehow.
Yeah, well, obviously Jokic, and then they had Nurkic. They kind of have a history of doing it. It's Calvin Booth is the
GM.
Is the GM there. So yeah, the Nuggets are a team I'm looking forward to the most there. All right, question number 2 here on the Bonanza. Let's make it let's go a little bit more local. We'll go a little bit east of us here. We're in Santa Rosa, Cloverdale. We'll go a little east here where Amanda, my sister, lives. I'm kind of a Kings fan now a little bit, right? Because they kind of remind me of the old Warriors, those kind of the ugly uniform Warriors that were just horrible drafting and just never could figure it out. And so I kind of appreciate that part of the Kings now more so that the Warriors have gone through their championship run. So my question to you, and for our Kings fans out there, our listeners, do you see the Kings trading Harrison Barnes, Hield, or Bagley? And the other part of that question I want to ask you is, which one would you rather keep? So these are 3 good players, not great players, solid players, all have their deficiencies. One younger, like Bagley, with a little upside to grow, but is horrendous defensively.
Been terrible.
He's been much improved offensively. I've watched him. He's much more patient than he was at the beginning. He's actually using the backboard, which I'm very impressed with around the hoop. But he's
that was a big gripe you had.
A big gripe on it. But it defensively is way too slow for slow picking up things for his size, and not as dominant as a rebounder as you'd like for that size as well. So that kind of concerns me. Hield obviously can shoot, has his deficiencies, and then Barnes, we know what we're getting. So what do you got with that?
I'm the Kings. I'm keeping Barnes just because I know who he is. He's solid. He's not gonna win me a championship, but he's gonna be a good player, a player you want on your roster.
Is he getting too much though? I mean, he is, right?
I mean, yes, but the contract's going up. He has 2 more years, and I think his contract was top heavy, so it's going down.
You're right.
Years. So I'd keep Barnes, and I'd keep Bagley for the upside, and I'd trade Buddy. He has a crappy attitude. He doesn't want to be in Sacramento. I'm sure he'd have a better attitude elsewhere, but
he's shooting 14 shots a game, and 10 of them are threes every game. So
that's insane.
So which is fine given his skill set, but he's the one that's making the most money. I would think you could get the most back for Bagley, but I'm not sure. Maybe Buddy's the one that you get the most back for, but just because the three ball is a little bit more. Maybe he's one of your Sixers guys that you're thinking of if they could afford it.
Yeah, that'd be a good fit if they could fit him in.
Yeah, that would be an interesting trade. They'd have to give up somebody though to get that contract going for sure. That'd be the problem with that team. But maybe if they included somebody like would you trade Tyrese Maxey if you were the Sixers for Buddy Hield? Obviously you can't do that contract wise, but would you want to trade a young player like that?
I couldn't make it work.
Yeah. I don't think the Kings would do both in that regard. Yeah. That'd be an interesting one. I think I would keep Hield. And the reason I would keep him is I think I'm probably in the minority in this take with it. I think most people are kind of on your take with it, but the reason I would keep Hield is because I just feel like in Oklahoma, I noticed it. I just feel like he has a gift though with 3-point shooting. Like I feel like it's not a rare. Like he's like an elite 3-point shooter. He just hasn't been honed in enough in the NBA yet to where I feel like he's taking advantage of the right shots and he's a decent mover without the ball. I'd say above average. So I think if I was the Kings, if I could somehow make it work with Halliburton, Fox, and Hield, and just upgrade my bigs good enough. I don't know.
And that was another reason I'd trade Hield is more minutes for Halliburton. Halliburton's pretty versatile, but you're right. You should. I mean, even if it doesn't work, at least he's playing. Like, there's no downside in playing Halliburton more.
Because Halliburton's greatest skill set is he's actually smart. So now the only problem is the Kings are known for being a horrible defensive team. But I'm not one of these people that believe in I just feel like, you know what I mean? Like, let's get the average wing defender and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I kind of like the idea. I just think they really need a better center at this point.
So who would you trade?
So who would I trade? I would see what I could get for Barnes and Bagley. I think that could bring you back the most too, because I think they have the good contract with Barnes, and you have the young player in Bagley that somebody could buy. Like I was thinking, like the Hawks, maybe like John Collins, if they could somehow get somebody like that. I don't think the Hawks would do that, but
I don't think the Hawks are doing that.
But that would be kind of ideal if you're like the Kings or something like that. If you get like a center back,
because Collins doesn't want to be in Atlanta, so.
Well, yeah, Trae Young doesn't really look for him very. All right, let's get into question 3 here. This is our home question here. We'll bust out the Warriors question for the week here. So given I watched as you know, I watched Inside the NBA with TNT crew, Charles Barkley, Shaq, all those guys on there. They were bringing up after the Warriors get crushed by the Clippers on Thursday night. And I mean crushed.
Curry, they look terrible.
Horrible. You brought up that Nico Mannion was one of the best point guards in the league, one of the worst point guards in the league. It's his birthday today, by the way, and Curry's, I think. So happy birthday out there, Nico.
At least he wasn't born on my birthday. One day short, buddy. 1 day short.
So the crew is bringing up, should the Warriors tank for the rest of the season? Basically, they're 19-19. I think they're sitting at 9th in the playoffs right now. So should the Warriors tank the rest of the season? Why or why not? What do you got?
No, they shouldn't tank. I mean, they kind of ran it back and just said they should lessen Curry's minutes to like 30 a game, or like not play him over 30 minutes a game.
Yeah.
Which I kind of agree with, but I don't think they should be trying to lose games. The lineup they ran out against the Clippers, though, Nico Mannion, Jordan Poole, Oubre, Pascal, and some other bum is one. It's the worst backcourt in the NBA.
Yeah,
but I don't want him to tank. Getting back on topic,
because
Curry didn't play all of last year.
Yeah,
and it's not fair to him to say, "Oh, you're not playing." Or it's just I'm not. I mean, I'm for tanking if you're terrible, but the Warriors have a chance. Like they could win the first round matchup if they. Maybe not against the Lakers. Yeah, they could beat the Jazz. I wouldn't be shocked.
I think the main reason I wouldn't tank is I don't think you can underestimate playoff experience if you can get it. I think guys like James Wiseman, I think that's when you kind of build your confidence the most. And if they could have any success in those games there, I mean, that seems like that would be a motivation towards the off season that might get you ready for this, especially for somebody like him that struggled. So I think of him the most in this situation. I also think of guys like Oubre who are maybe will stay or not stay on their team, that maybe you get a playoff experience. If he does stay, maybe you trade Wiggins. Maybe you know what I mean? Like you kind of want to build this experience. And given the Curry's 32 years old and Draymond's, on the downside of his talent, why are we tanking? You go for it there. I get it in terms of like, draft pick or something like that. But I mean, that guy is going to take time to develop too. You very rarely get these rookies that, really step in and are a huge difference. Like even as good as somebody like Ball and Halliburton are, they're not like their teams are still 500. They're not the Tim Duncans of the world of those people as rookies. So I think I'm with you. The Warriors need to go for it. We had 15 and 50 last year in a short season or something like that. Come on, go for it. That's my thing. They're already tough enough to watch at times.
When Curry's not on the floor, it's.
Have you noticed with Kerr that he's having to figure the fly out or figure some things out on the fly? Before it was always, they were talking about this, I think on KMBR, hey, we were talking about Kerr having to, early on, he was playing more of the system thing. We just got to play within the system, and stuff like that. It's we don't quite have the guys for this system anymore. So you got to figure something else out, bringing Curry in earlier and stuff like that. So I think he's having to adjust as well to a certain team. It's kind of interesting to watch.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to coach when you have Curry, Clay,
Durant.
And then Durant.
All right, question 4 here on the Bonanza. All right, to me, there are some decent players available at the deadline. I want to know which one that you think could have the biggest impact and maybe holds the most value. Some of the players I'm thinking of: Aldridge, Horford, Tucker, Drummond, Lowry. Griffin's already been traded to the Nets, but maybe he holds the most value. You feel as well. So there's some decent players available. Sometimes, I've even heard Kevin Love's name out there as well. So who out of those guys? Is there somebody that you think holds maybe more value, or is there a team in person you think could make it a bigger?
I think the two guys that people should be targeting are Lowry, like we said before, and Aldridge. Aldridge, when he's held, in the David West role on steroids, kind of where he's coming off the bench and more of a scorer than West, but just being that veteran who can ride the ship and
you're talking about Aldridge,
do what
right?
he does. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember going back to our mock draft that we did, our redraft of that one, that you were a big fan of Aldridge then too. I think he's one of the guys with the most upside here. I think he's definitely a fit type guy though too. If he goes to the wrong team, I could kind of feel it maybe not working, kind of how when Gasol went to the Bulls, I was like, what are you doing? That's not a fit. It was kind of he ruined, I thought he should have gone to a better team when he left the Lakers to keep his talent kind of going a little bit more. I personally think the person has the most value as well is Griffin. I think Blake Griffin has the most value. So I think him going to the Nets will provide the most. I think he's in the process of learning how to play on the backside of his career still. And I think now playing with better players, you're going to see some of those Clipper things that we kind of forget that he did, at the high post with his passing. And he had seasons where he averaged 4 or 5 assists. And I think on a team like that, how are you not? I think he's going to be able to take advantage of some of those things moving forward a little bit. And I think he has the most upside out of all those guys and the most motivation to get back to maybe an all-star level, because I don't know if that part's there anymore with his injuries, but I think close to it still. This is what I got real quick with where I think these guys are going to go, or I think is a good fit. Aldridge, I think, would be a good fit in Memphis. I like him playing with Morant, giving an extra big, better than Valanciunas, much better in my opinion. I'm not a big Valanciunas fan.
I would agree.
So I think Aldridge would be a great fit in Memphis if they could pull that off. I like Horford in Phoenix. I think he'd be a good fit there, to go with Ayton as a backup there. I like Tucker to go with the Nets as well. It just seems like a fit with D'Antoni and getting bought out. That's kind of where I see him going. And Drummond, I like him on one of the LA teams. I could see him with the Lakers or Clippers. And Lowry, I'm the same with you. I kind of think the Sixers would be a good fit with him. Obviously playing for Villanova at college too. It seems like it would go full circle there with him there. So it'll be interesting to see where those guys go. Decent players though, right?
Yeah, you can.
Some of those guys can make an impact.
You can change your season.
Yeah, you don't think of those guys, but those are better than the usual JaVale McGee's or those other guys that are out there. That's the thing there. All right, question 5 here on the Fatboy FadeAway Sports Podcast here, the NBA Sports Bonanza. Tyler, I think it's kind of clear that the Nets are the team that is making the big push here, right? They got they're loading up. It's hard not to think that they're the favorite going forward.
They
Pretty
look
dominant.
like the team to beat.
Yeah, I mean with the Lakers, right? It's just like they got 4 guys. The Lakers got 2 at this point. We feel really confident in. LeBron is maybe 2 of those guys, so maybe 3 we'll even give them with that.
But Davis has to be healthy. That's the scary part about the Lakers.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the question for both teams too. Can the Nets hang on health wise with like a Griffin and an Irving and Durant? I think we all know Harden's going to be there, and James. They both are like just they never get hurt, so those guys will be there. So it's kind of who will be the healthiest going into the playoffs. But the Nets by far are looking the best right now. They're 25-13. They seem like they're figuring it out a little bit. Harden right now is, I don't think he's ever played better in some ways. He's playing, just in terms of like the way he's starting to like figure out now that he's playing with better players. He's not so dominant with the ball all the time.
It's definitely the most visually pleasing James Harden basketball I've seen since he was in Oklahoma City, where he wasn't even like one of the main. I mean, he was a third star then, maybe not a star, but now he's one of my favorite players to watch. And I used to hate James Harden. I hated watching Houston. They were hard. If they were on TNT, it was like hard to be like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to sit through this whole thing.
Because the free throws, right?
In the top of the key, just pick and roll. There's him dribbling the ball. I mean, he's good at it. He was unreal at it. I'll give him. Yeah. I think he's the 3rd best shooting guard of all time.
Wow. Because, his numbers right now are 25 points, 8 rebounds, 11 assists, destroying the Nets. So it's kind of showing his scoring's having to drop way down because, he's not having to carry that load as much offensively. They're not asking him to do as much offensively. It's keeping him a little bit fresher. But we also got to make it clear, he's playing with Irving now. He's playing with, Durant. He was been hurt. I get that. So that's really, I think, making him even a little bit better. It's remotivating him a little bit. You can see he's much more ready to go. But I'm also curious, what do you think Steve Nash's impact is at, if any? Like, is he? I always wonder this with coaches sometimes. Like, he has such great players, right? But like, how much of an influence are they actually having in the midst of this game at this NBA level? I know you're not watching a ton of Nets games, to be honest about it, but I know you've seen a few with him on there, here or there. So what do you think Nash is kind of providing to Harden?
Basketball mind who like actually did it, and Harden saw him do it, and he knew how. So he's someone he listened to and like respects. I don't know any of this, but it's just speculation. But like he plays completely different now, and they both are in the D'Antoni system still in a way, but it's just not pick and roll at the top of the key and kick out or throw an alley-oop or finish or shoot a 3.
I like how he keeps the ball a little bit more on the baseline. I've noticed this week a little bit more, like Nash had to. He's not playing like Nash, but he's kind of keeping his dribble alive a little bit more baseline, where he usually was get to those block areas and kick out one way or the other. But he's kind of roaming a little bit more. And obviously he can do that with good shooters that he has around, but he's showing a little bit more skill in that regard too. So he's playing at a high level. The Bucks are the only team in the East with a better plus minus, but I think me or you both know that they're way better than the Bucks, I feel like, still. So I think
Giannis is trying to make an MVP move right now, but that's another time.
They need Holiday to really turn it up to another level. Middleton's playing great this year. I think Giannis, like I said, my problem with the Bucks is I'm not going to go on a rant about it. Get the ball to the man in the post. I'm just going to be quiet after that. So the Nets playing unreal. They're one of the teams that it'll be really interesting to see how they play out the second half of the season. The Sixers got the 1 seed though at 26-12. Obviously, Embiid getting hurt out 2 weeks. I think me and you both are thinking that might flip flop here in the next 2 weeks with the seedage. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep an eye on that moving forward here. All right, question 6, my longest question on the Bonanza here. I saw a segment on Ball and Morant, and they were debating on this NBA show which one would you rather have, and I was like, well, yeah, that's actually a pretty good kind of a good debate there, because Morant's like this, a younger player, younger player, but a 2-year player. Ball's
back and
exactly. So both franchises are in like a good position. They're both like in the 8s. Kind of, I think the Hornets are sitting at 7. I think the Mavericks or the Memphis is at 9, but they're in that like wild card seeding position. They both play in extremely small markets. So which point guard would you rather have moving forward?
It's a tough one. I love both of them.
I know it would be a tough one for you.
I think I'll go with LaMelo. Just he has this, like, it might get him in trouble sometimes where maybe he does in the playoffs and misses a bunch of shots. I'd start not liking him, but he just doesn't have, like, he has the most confidence in himself. I feel like he never, like, I'm not saying I haven't watched enough Ja, like, to see him, like, really, really, like, day in and day out. But same with Ball, I guess. But I would just take Ball.
You watch more YouTube videos than Ball.
Yeah. Well, for sure.
He's a kid.
I just think Ball could be a, like, top 5 player in the NBA at some point.
Is it because of his height too?
Yeah, absolutely. The height has a lot, and is one of the best passers already. Like, he sees the court differently.
I'm going with Morant. I'm counting on his 3 ball. I think that's what I'm banking on, because I feel like, and I love his intangibles. I'm not saying I hate Ball's intangibles. I like his game too. I just like Morant's. Maybe it's just the style at times I prefer a little bit. Maybe that's partially what it is. I kind of like somebody that plays hard like that, will attack to the rim like that. He didn't get a foul call the other day when he drove. It was questionable. I know there were some Grizzly fans out there that really wanted that call.
It looked like a foul.
It looked like it
could
have been a foul.
Him
I'll say this: I probably wouldn't have been happy if it was a foul if I was a fan of the other team either. So
yeah, that's true.
I would have been unhappy either way. But I think he hasn't got that respect yet, obviously, for driving as a second-year player, like to get a call like that. And
Isn't that the problem, though, that you have to get respect before you get a call? Like, it's just so stupid that they have this crap. But
I just love his ability to get to the hoop. I love the way he's now. We're not seeing him this year with Jackson or anything like that. In Memphis, sometimes they don't get that like second player always to kind of help him along. But I think Jackson, once he comes back, we'll even see him flourish more, because that will open up pick and rolls more. And they got this guy Bain, who's a pretty good shooter now, and they always play hard defensively. So I don't know. I think he's the guy I just have just a little bit more confidence.
I think one of the reasons is I think Ja has a bigger chance of getting hurt. I've seen it happen too many times. That he's uber athletic.
He's too torquey and stuff like that with it. Yeah,
he's so, like, quick twitch. Like,
yeah,
he just reminds me of Rose a little bit.
Who?
Derrick Rose.
Yeah, he does remind me a little bit of Derrick Rose. He reminds me a little bit of like a John Wall too. In terms, maybe not the quickness version, but John Wall was kind of a freak athlete like that too. I just like Morant's all-around game. Like, to me, if you're getting triple doubles in college, you can play a real well-rounded game. And Ball obviously has that same ability, but I'm going to take Morant at this point. So you got Ball, I got Morant. There should be a nice little thing moving forward. And I'm interested to see how Ball, if he can get his team into the playoffs. That'd be quite an accomplishment for him, for sure.
One thing that does bug me about Ball is he kind of looks nonchalant. A lot of times, even when he does something good, when he's running back, he's like, and just like, I don't know, look like you're trying.
You're like, come and get
some. I don't know if that's like, I mean, he is trying. I'm not like, but it just, I don't know. It's like a Brandon Belt thing where he just strikes out and walks back to the dugout.
You want the demeanor to care a little bit more. I got you. That,
like when Dunleavy ripped off his shirt, I gained some respect for him.
You want to see you be pissed about it. I got you. It's like you.
I put that video in there of Dunleavy.
I kind of think of it the one where, at your championship game, when it went between your legs, you could have just sat there, but you wanted to show passion. You wanted to throw your glove on the ground, and you wanted to show people that you care. You were pissed off. I get it.
I was 10 years old. My God. Never lived that one. 24 years ago. Still here. I just like the ground ball through my legs.
One of my favorite reactions of all time, just sitting there on the third base line.
We were up 6-0, and we blew it.
That's what I mean. You're passionate. I can see that answer. That's why you gave that answer. Let's see a little bit of emotion there. All right, last question here on the NBA Bonanza, NBA trade day line here on the Fatboy FadeAway Sports Podcast. Tyler, what team and player are we most interested? You're going to be more locked into before the start of the playoffs. So what team there are you going to be keeping an eye on?
It's not really because Dallas. I don't really care about it, but it's Doncic. That is, he is the. If he does something crazy in the playoffs again, he's just. I don't know. He's special.
Right now, they're the 7th seed in the West,
and they're playing well the last 2.5 weeks. So it's Doncic to me.
I had the Mavericks on there. I had a few teams on there. I had the Bucks. I want to see how they start to play, moving towards the playoffs. See their style now that they kind of seem like they're starting to play a little bit better. I want to see how they mix Holiday in there at the point guard. I kind of want the Pacers. They're getting LeVert back. They're getting maybe not Warren back, but I think the LeVert back for sure here.
LeVert played last night.
Played a few minutes. I think once he gets his legs under him, possibly by the playoffs, they could be. I'm kind of curious to see how they kind of play moving forward. And then the Nets, we talked about them. I obviously want to see how they incorporate Blake Griffin, and I want to see what Blake brings to the table. I want to see if he's completely done or does he have a little life left in those legs there. So
I think he's done.
All right. Well, that's kind of the guy I'm kind of looking forward to the most to kind of see what he has.
Blake.
I feel like he has kind of the most like either he's a good player that was done now or he's got a little left in the tank and can make a difference. On the West, I got Denver, where I'm interested in. Portland, I'm always interested in with Lillard. I'm always in them. And then the Suns, that's the other team I want to see. They're the 2 seed right now. I mean, could they jump to the 1 seed? Could Paul?
They could.
Could he get an MVP? I mean, is that possible at this age?
He's doing more than his numbers say. He's doing more than Nash did when Nash won his MVPs. Paul's a really weird player. When he was on the Clippers, you there?
Yeah, man.
When he was on the Clippers, he was one of those players because the Warriors just hated. This guy's annoying, but he wins. I thought that Thunder team last year was going to win 15 games, and even this year the Thunder overperforming. But yeah, Paul's something else.
He's a definition of a leader, right? He probably goes to the gym thinking about his teammates. He's thinking about how he can get them involved. He's thinking about how they can win this game. He's thinking the weaknesses of the team. He's a coach on the floor. You know what I mean? Literally, that's what his mindset is.
And I think he has that Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. I'm not a friend. I'm not friends when we're on the floor. He's friends with all these guys off the floor, but he's ultimate competitor.
There's this game I want to watch. I keep seeing it. I always kind of go back and watch NBA Classic games. We talked about me watching John Stockton a little bit more last week. There's one on there. It's Chris Paul versus Steve Nash in 2005. I want to go back and watch that, or 2007 or something like that. So, when it goes to double overtime, and he's on the Hornets, and he was a bad man, Chris Paul on the Hornets. So if you want to go back and watch some good highlights of him, you kind of think of him a little bit more methodical now, a little bit slower. His elbow jumper, especially then, it was unstoppable. I mean, for a 6'1" guy. So I got more respect for Paul now.
That's giving him a couple inches.
I hated him on the Clippers, though. So
I hated him. I hated him on Houston.
He was, and even on Houston, he was just pesky. He knows how to. He's just smart, and he can shoot. I mean, he just got really good at shooting moving forward too.
He's clutch.
Anything else you're looking forward to NBA wise?
See if the Warriors can find a way in the playoffs.
I was kind of thinking about how with these stadiums opening up, if there's more fans involved. It's an indoor sport, so we'll see how many more of these fans could be let in. At a Rockets game, the Rockets are a bad example. They've lost 15 in a row, but at a Mavericks game, if they have a full house or something, how will that work? Or just interesting from a home field advantage standpoint.
See the mentally weak players.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. All right, man. Well, that was a good podcast. Good NBA talk. A lot to look into, guys. There's a lot of good stuff going in here. So we'll see how the Warriors. They haven't played in a while. They play tonight though. So we'll see how they do tonight.
Got to bounce back.
See if Nico gets some more playing time for you.
No, don't play Nico. I had to watch him at Arizona. Now I have to watch him here.
You were excited, I thought, about Nico.
I was. He was a top 2 point. No, I wasn't excited. I told you he was gonna. Casey was the one who was like.
Casey was pretty excited about. Casey went Kirk Morrison on him. Casey went Kirk Morrison on him.
Adam Morrison.
No, he thought Kirk Morrison was going to be.
Oh, Kirk on the Raiders.
The linebacker.
No. He thought Ronald Curry was going to be a star.
Ronald Curry. Yeah, anytime he played basketball, he was a good player. All right, man. That was a good podcast. Exactly. All right, that was a good podcast this week. I'll see you See you next week. We'll check in about more of the NBA, and we got MLB obviously getting ready to start up too. So about 2 weeks away. Really pumping Tatis Jr. there. So we'll see. I'm sure we'll get plenty of his highlights this year as well. He is a stud though. So all right, man. Good podcast. We'll talk to you next week. Peace.
Peace.